This week on the channel, I talk about the top 5 toxic mindsets that musicians have and what you can do about them. What's going on, everybody? My name is Adam. Hope you're doing well. I did want to make a quick note about the slight rebrand of the channel. Big thanks to Chris Wright over at chrismakesart.com for the illustrations. You'll be seeing a lot more of those in future episodes. So this week on TikTok, I asked what musicians thought were the most toxic mindsets that plague our community. The responses were enlightening and deeply depressing. This is one topic it seems that a lot of you have experienced. From your comments, I was able to put together a list of the top 5 most toxic mindsets musicians have. And if you watch to the end, you may find out that there's really only one. Before we get into the list, I wanted to note that if you're a musician looking to make good money playing music, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. Anyway, without further ado, here are the top 5 most toxic mindsets in the musician community. At number 5, we have unhealthy competition. Music and performing in general typically is considered an art form, but it seems that so many musicians see other players in their market not as brothers and sisters in arms, but as people standing in their way. This kind of thinking makes playing with your band really unpleasant. Now, I'm not talking about looking at other groups in your market or on the bill and rising to the occasion in a friendly way. I'm talking about those bands that go out of their way to mess with other groups or badmouth other bands in their local scene. I received a comment from one group who said that a band actually went up and started messing with their PA in the middle of their set. Not cool. On the topic of competition, we kind of covered this in the backing tracks video. What equates to cheating in band situations? Where are the cash and prizes? Do I need to take a drug test? Who's the governing body? Someone using a different method than you does not equate to cheating because, once again,
music is not a competition.
This kind of behavior may stem from toxic mindset number 4. Scarcity mindset. This may not be a term you've heard before, but we talk about it a lot on the Cover Band Confidential podcast. In short, scarcity mindset is thinking that whatever someone else has or gets is directly taking it away from you. If you think another band getting a big show or making more money than you is a bad thing, you may be using a scarcity mindset. In reality, every band is on a separate track, and those who came before you and found success are increasing the value of live music in your market. A high tide raises all ships, right? I'd also note that bigger bands in your town are a great source of best practices that you can implement in your own project. Ultimately, there's plenty of work and opportunities for everyone. And supporting bands when they blow up make you look like an ally and will ultimately benefit you much more than scheming and gossiping behind their backs. Number 3 on the most toxic mindsets for musicians, binary thinking. I know, another psych term. Here's the basic gist. Have you ever heard this kind of thing?
You can't play country on an Explorer?
You can't play metal on a Telecaster? You can't play ska on any instrument ever for any reason?
You have just experienced binary thinking. Binary thinking, also known as dichotomous thinking, is when complex concepts, problems, or ideas are simplified into being one side or another. Real life is gray, and there are plenty of viewpoints in music that are as well. One place I really see this cause issues is the way that musicians think in relation to their audience. Generally, musicians are under the impression that the way that they see, hear, and experience things line up with the way that their audience does as well. This is not the case at all. Taken to its most destructive conclusion, it can create an adversarial attitude towards their audience.
Playing music that the audience likes, better known as the lowest common denominator.
That is a literal comment on one of my videos. Or musicians may develop an us against them mentality against the people they're supposed to be working with. I see this a lot with the way that musicians talk about venue owners, record labels, and as I mentioned earlier, other bands. Being locked into rigid thought structures can make it really hard to relate to other people and can come across as judgmental. Speaking of judgmental, the number 2 toxic mindset the musicians need to knock off is gatekeeping. The amount of online discourse around gatekeeping has really hit a fever pitch in the last few years. It was by far the most mentioned in my original post. For those who may be unfamiliar, and consider yourself fortunate if you are, the slang definition of gatekeeping is to limit someone's participation in a collective identity or activity due to undue resentment or overprotectiveness. In the musician community, you'll most likely see gatekeeping in its natural habitat, the comment section. Here you will find some of the most vile, racist, sexist, elitist, horse opinions that most normal human beings would never have the balls to say in real life. This is a toxic mindset weaponized against other people, and is the main reason why lots of people hate the online musician community. People who engage in this kind of activity are actively hurting a community that more than likely welcomed them with open arms when they first started learning to play an instrument. Most of us started playing because we felt different or that we didn't belong. I know that's why I picked up a guitar when I was a kid. Well, that and the pound cake video. Seeing the way that people comment on YouTube and social media really bums me out because as a young player, I'm not sure how I would have reacted to sharing my progress online and then getting inundated with a bunch of negative comments. If you do this, stop. Last and certainly least, we've made it to the top. Here is the #1 most toxic mindset in the musician community: insecurity. I'll be honest with you, this one kind of took me by surprise. Psychology Today published an article where they broke down the top 4 characteristics of an insecure person. Those traits are constantly trying to make others around them feel less than, an incessant need to showcase their accomplishments, constantly name dropping or humble bragging, complaining and or acting above their current situation. Sound like anybody you've been on a gig with? Weirdly enough, what most people consider egotistical or diva behavior is just an outward projection of insecurity. Honestly, if you look at any of the other items on this countdown, they all point back to a person who deep down doesn't feel very confident about themselves. I'm looking at you, gatekeeping. I mean, musicians and performers in general have basically decided that they are going to put their value in the hands of complete strangers. We trade years of practice, discipline, sweat, and blood for applause. Kind of a heavy realization when you think about it. The good news is that all of these mindsets can be broken with a little bit of work and practice. Just like we spend countless hours shedding new material, we need to put equal effort into our mental health as well. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would I spend as much time on not being insecure as I do preparing for a gig that makes me money? And I'll answer that question with another question. Don't you think that being a better person will get you better gigs? I can't tell you how often I hire players based solely on their reputation from my circle of friends, or how often I get asked to fill in because I'm an easy person to get along with. I know dozens of players with way better chops than me who don't get the same opportunities that I do because of their attitude or demeanor. And let me go ahead and say that I am incredibly insecure. I am not immune to feelings of jealousy, intimidation, or self-destructiveness. But I make an effort to try and process those feelings through an abundance mindset and congratulate musicians when they're successful. And over time, that process has become easier and easier. With a bit of effort, you can get there too. Well, there you have it. Those are the top 5 toxic mindsets of musicians. Did I leave any off? Leave a comment below and tell me what your picks would be. That's gonna do it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We post new videos here every single Friday. Also, if you and your band are looking to make big moves in 2022, I am offering personal coaching. Link for that is gonna be in the description. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next time.